Well, hello there, friends, and welcome to this week's second installment of Virtual Show. I'm your host, Wes. With me, as always, my good friend Ruuts. Ruuts, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready, dude. I'm ready this time for sure. You know what? I'm also ready for, Wes, and this is a small smidge little thing. After the show, I am going to go into Orbis and I'm going to redirect myself to be a bard instead of the musketeer, and I'm going to play the xylophone. I watched a bunch of videos. The bard is badass healer, and it looks so cool and so fun, and the thought of standing in chaos while people are fighting while I'm just playing music. That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. That sounds like the best healing I've ever heard of. And I'm really excited.
Well, you know what they say, Ruuts? They say good music heals the soul.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
And I mean VR xylophone. I mean, what a no-brainer. That'll be the next rhythm game, right? Smash xylophone.
Yeah, smash xylophone with all these amazing mechanics, man. Like I'm just keep getting more and more blown away with the depth of the thought to all the way the different things of Orbis VR Reborn. And you got to get in there, Wes. You got to get in there and Orbis VR it up with me sometime.
Well, I'll certainly give it a look. I certainly don't think that I'll ever dedicate the kind of time that it needs to get good at it. But you know me, I love VR, and I'll try anything once. So yeah, why not? I mean, they give you 10 hours or 10 levels rather of gameplay free. So it's not any dime out of my pocket. So why not?
Yeah, you know who else will try anything once?
My mom!
Oh man, and it can be fun too.
Nick Hagan in chat says that sound is falling in and out. Is it just for me? So if anyone else is having these sorts of issues, be sure to let us know. Maybe it's just a problem on Nick's side there. So I'm sure you guys are wondering what's going on here. You know, normally Friday night, Saturday night, this is the time slot reserved for free stuff and killer deals. Only that's not what we're doing tonight. Today is one of those rare occasions where we've got a story that, well, to be honest, it just doesn't quite fit anywhere else in our schedule. I mean, we could have done this story on Sunday and have it dominate our VR gaming news show, but that really don't make sense. We could have done it on Wednesday on our late night show, but we're doing Game of the Month on Wednesday, and it wouldn't leave much room for anything else. So we felt like the best thing to do would be go ahead and move free stuff and killer deals back to being a segment just for one more week only on Sunday. We'll finish the show out with free stuff and killer deals. And tonight, focus on, well, I mean, for lack of a better term, a bit of a breaking news story here on the Virtual Strangers channel, something that we don't often have. So for those of you who don't know, and as a few of you already know, Dark Cat Studios, the studio behind VR Tower Defense, VR Tower Defense game, Jenny and Thaco Trial by Spire. Dark Cat Studios happens to be a friend of the channel. We've been in contact with them for the better part of a year, and they've had some various issues publishing their game. And this past week, they informed me of this class action antitrust lawsuit that they have filed on the behalf of all PC game developers against Valve. And, I was given a 50 some odd page document literally 10 minutes before we went on the air with our last show. I didn't have time to really look over it before that show, so we really didn't get into it. But I spent the better part of yesterday dissecting this thing, making some very detailed notes on it and what it alleges. And furthermore, I spent the better part of 2 hours last night talking to the head of Dark Cat Studios and getting his side of the story with regards to his experience in trying to develop and publish a PC VR game. So what we're going to do here today is I'm basically going to just break down for you what this lawsuit alleges. Again, it was like a 50 some page document. I boiled it down to a few pages of notes here. And for the record, and I want to be very clear about this, two things. First of all, these are all just allegations. Nothing has been proven in court. Nothing's even been heard in court yet. We don't even know if the courts are even going to pick this thing up yet. It literally was just filed this week. The second thing I want to make clear is I am just reporting on what this lawsuit alleges. These are not my opinions. I'm going to do my best to not pass any kind of judgment one way or the other. I'm going to try to be impartial and just explain to you what's being charged here. Now, of course, as we move through this thing, we will be breaking from time to time, taking into account what people in the chat are saying. So feel free to give your opinions openly, as we always do. And Ruuts, the same goes for you. At any point during this, if you feel like you have an opinion you want to express, I'm sure you already know, you can feel free to do so. At least until we get through this thing, I'm going to just try to act as a news reporter and tell you to the best of my ability what this lawsuit alleges. And then if we have time at the end of it, maybe I'll give my 2 cents on it. And of course, again, if you guys have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. A lot of what, I spoke with the studio yesterday. A lot of that I can't really talk about, obviously, due to the sensitive nature of the subject matter and the impending lawsuit. But if you guys have any questions regarding the case that I don't cover during this episode, feel free to ask them, and I'll do my best to answer them promptly. Now, with that said, we are on a bit of a schedule here, so we're not going to dilly-dally, linger, and shoot the shit the way we normally do. So we will need to get right into it. But before we do that, let's kick it off the way we always do by saying hello to our friends in chat. Space Denison is in the chat, aka Void Cat. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. Lip Knox. We knew Lip Knox was going to be here, right, Ruuts?
Yeah, absolutely. Very much.
Diz the Game Cat says, thanks, gents. Well, thank you. Chris Richardson stopping by. Hello, Chris. VR Spry Guy. VR Spry Guy was digging the episode the other night, man, until it dropped off. Our best of episode of the Steam Summer Sale. And it's unfortunate that it dropped off when it did, because we really hadn't gotten into the best of the list yet. So I told Spry Guy earlier today, Ruuts, and we'll tell everybody else right now, I think within a month we should probably circle back around and do another best of.
Right. Yeah. Well, and, because people don't even know what it is. Some of them, they just got a little smidge, a taste. They need to get the rest of it.
Right. So we'll come back and do another best episode very soon. We obviously can't do it this week with Game of the Month, but we will be coming back around to that, and we'll get to the rest of our list and then also add upon it. Traveling Man 3775 in the chat as always. Hello. And let's see, Mash Daddy, ever faithful. Lincoln Clay in the house. John Robb. Hello, John. Thanks for stopping by. And Meow Mix says it's about time. Now, I don't know if he means it's about time I put the show page up, or it's about time somebody brings this antitrust action against Steam. A lot of passion when it comes to Steam, right? I mean, we have the majority of the gaming community that looks and pretty much only sees the very positive things that they've done for PC gaming. Did you know, Ruuts, that Steam invented PC gaming back in the mid 2000s?
Oh, I heard Gabe invented AI, bro. He's waiting. He came back in time to show us.
Anyway, I'm sure that not long after this episode publishing, the Valve Defense Force will come out in full swing. I'm curious, anybody know if we've gotten any of the the thumbs down yet? I assume that we would get at least one or two just based on the title of the episode.
No, we have not. As far as I've seen, I see 13's up, thumbs up, and 0 down. It probably changed now that we brought it up, but
Well, we're not doing our job yet if we haven't pissed anybody off.
that's true.
I mean, I thought the thumbnail alone would be enough.
Well, yeah, I think people, you're not giving people the benefit of the doubt in 2021. People are very well level-headed, calm, cool, collected.
Anyway, Swift's I don't know. I never know how to pronounce this dude's name. He's a frequent viewer of the show. Swift. Didn't we talk about this before?
We did.
Swift Silent Deadly. Okay, that's right. Swift Silent Deadly.
Or Swift.
Says, what's all this ruckus? We got lawsuits flying, man. We've got people standing up. David standing up to Goliath, so to speak, here with regard to Steam and their reported 75% market share of PC VR gaming Ruuts.
Wow. That's pretty good for 16 years? That's all it's been?
Yeah, dude. Multi-trillion-dollar corporation, Valve.
Wow.
But we all know they're not in it for the money. They're just in it for the love of the game, right?
They are, absolutely. Well, you can do both. You can get some money, make some money.
I agree. We all need money. I don't ever fault anyone with being capitalist, but just as a general statement, not only about Valve, but all companies, Dark Cat Studios, all of them, anybody who's in business is in business to make money. And there's nothing wrong with that. And with regards to the larger corporations, generally these larger corporations will do as much as they're allowed to get away with. And you gave a good example when we were talking before the show about a similar lawsuit that came against Steam years ago that affected their policies for the better, at least from the perspective of the consumer, right?
Yeah. I didn't even know it. Like, I came onto Steam as such a noob too. I didn't even know what Steam was or how to get a game. After I got VR in 2018, that's when I came onto Steam, right? And so I assumed, hey, the Steam is so cool, man. They got this 2-week exchange period and all of that, 2 hours. And I come to find out that is only like 5 or 6 years old, and that was because of a lawsuit that they were trying to appease. And what was kind of cool, aside from Sony, everybody adopted it. At least all the PC other stores give you that same window, or a lot of them anyway. And it did benefit us.
So I guess win, lose, or draw with regards to this lawsuit and whether it has merit or not. Hopefully, at the end of the day, even if the courts don't find that Valve is engaging in antitrust behavior, maybe at the end of the day, this will affect Steam's policies for the better, not only with regards to consumers, but developers alike.
Yeah, absolutely. Because some of the stuff that I was reading in the notes that you're going to go over here is kind of stuff I never would have thought was going on.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, man. And regardless of whether or not these claims have any validity, this will be a fun exercise. I have learned things that I did not know about the distribution side of PC gaming. There are some very interesting facts that we're all going to learn here together, given that we're able to get through it all before we have to go off the air. So in that frame of mind, I think we need to get started. There's a lot to unpack here and not much time. So I'm going to get right into it. Again, very clearly, 1, these are unproven allegations. And 2, these are not my opinions. I am only reporting what is in the legal complaint that was filed this past week. So again, this past week, Dark Cat Studios, the developer behind PCVR Tower events titled Jenny and Thaco Trial by Spire, filed a proposed class action antitrust lawsuit against Steam creator Valve. The suit comes on the heels of a similar suit that was filed in April by independent game developer and Humble Bundle creator Wolfire Games. Both suits allege that Steam has used various means to unlawfully stifle competition in order to establish and maintain monopolistic control over the global PC gaming market. And as we mentioned a moment ago, this is a market in which they hold reportedly a 75% global market share, which is just astounding when you consider all of the PC gamers out there and games being sold. Fun fact, Ruuts, there's over 50,000 games for sale on Steam.
Wow. Well, even more fun fact, at least I didn't even know, is it's all started out as a Valve only uh, company, right? Like a store. They only sold their own games. I can't remember what the two games that they first branched out that weren't Valve's, and they were like hokey type of games, I guess, at least for me looking at them now. But talking in this documentary that we're showing here, they were talking about that Valve started out as it only sold its own games. It's branched out now to have 75% of the shares of the world's market. That's crazy.
That is crazy. Traveling Man 3775 in chat says absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. And Delirium Drew VR in chat very importantly says allegedly. So that's importantly, I want to reiterate allegedly to everything I say. This is allegedly a show. Everything's allegedly today, Ruuts.
Allegedly, this beard is long. It actually needs to be longer, bro. It's too short.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Anyway, as I said before, having read over the entire 50-plus page complaint that was filed by Dark Cat on behalf of PC game developers everywhere, I have attempted to boil it all down to a few pages of notes and a few key points regarding the allegations. As I see it, the suit is trying to establish three main claims. We'll now take a look at each one of these claims and the reasoning behind them. Number one, due to Steam's market dominance and exclusion of potential rivals, developers must have their game on Steam to have sufficient access to the market and an opportunity to generate revenue. So basically what's being claimed here is that if you want to publish and sell a PC VR game today, you must have your game on Steam. Otherwise, you will not succeed. It's important for me to point out that this lawsuit is dealing with the entirety of PC gaming and is not specifically VR focused. So those of you who are going to come up with what about Viveport, what about Oculus, this has to do with the larger PC gaming atmosphere. And even if it didn't, there are legitimate reasons to, well, I mean, just quickly, Oculus is on their way out of PC VR. We all know that. And Viveport, as awesome as it is, isn't the highest volume. You can't make a living selling your game on Viveport, from what I understand. But that's besides the point. Let's look at this claim here that Steam's market dominance and exclusion of rivals make it so that developers must have their game on Steam. Valve owns and operates Steam for the distribution of PC games. It was launched in 2003. Steam has become the dominant distributor of PC games. I keep wanting to say PC VR. Since 2003, Steam has become the dominant distributor of PC games. Steam has millions of active users worldwide, approximately 120 million monthly active users in 2020, and over 1 billion user accounts. Valve takes on 30% of a game's earnings under $10 million, 25% on all of a game's earnings between 10 and 50 million, and 20% of all of a game's earnings over $50 million. Valve's share for all three tiers is above the revenue share that would be offered in a competitive market. Again, these are not my opinions. This is being read word for word from the legal document. So again, it alleges that this 30% share and the other tiers below it would be much less in a competitive atmosphere. Developers seek access to consumers and to publish and sell their PC games on storefronts such as Steam. Almost all game developers lack the resources to establish and maintain their own digital storefront, including the ability to combat credit card fraud that is rampant in the industry. It takes even more resources to establish the content delivery network and digital rights management tools necessary to host a developer's game. Other PC gaming stores, both digital and physical, operating throughout the class period were or are reselling access to Steam-based games. These stores do not provide developers a PC game distribution channel independent of Steam and outside of Steam's control. So what they're saying here, Ruuts, is most of the competitors to the Steam store are actually just third-party authorized Steam resellers, your Fanaticals, your Humble Bundles, all of these stores that we all like to go shop at. These are all just further extensions of the Steam store.
Well, you know what's funny about that? How much paranoia people have about those stores. We're finding out in this document that they're actually legitimate. You know what I mean? That those keys are legitimate. You don't have to worry about Green Man Gaming, Humble Bundle. There's some of the. I mean, they're great. They're good keys. But
Yeah,
it's
important to note here that there are both. There are authorized resellers and there are unauthorized resellers. And I've learned a lot about the unauthorized reselling of these keys over the last couple of days. Some eye-opening stuff, honestly.
man, that's crazy.
The suit says that developers need to have their game on Steam to have access to Steam keys, which have become the industry standard for distributing licensed copies of the game. So again, if you sell on one of these other sites, Green Man, Humble Bundle, Fanatical, you will not be subject to that 30%, 20% cut that Steam takes from their store. But in order to sell your games on these stores, your game must first be on Steam because all of these stores are selling Steam keys. So you have to be on Steam to get the Steam keys. The few stores that are offering their own gaming client and content delivery system are not options for many developers because A, they only host and sell their own games. B, they only take high profile games or games with a proven sales record. Or C, they only offer DRM free games, meaning that developers have no anti-piracy protections. So they're saying that these other storefronts like GOG and Epic Game Store will either only offer their own games, only offer proven high profile games, or don't offer any kind of DRM protection, like Itch.io, for example, will publish anybody's game at a very fair, competitive rate, but they offer no piracy protection whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess piracy protection costs money, right? You gotta have to cut that in there somewhere. So,
absolutely. Valve engages in a scheme to maintain. Okay, so we're moving on now. That was the first claim. The first claim was that in order to make it selling PC games, you got to be on Steam. The third-party stores, at least today, aren't an option. The ones that are accessible to most developers are only reselling Steam games anyway. So you have to be on Steam regardless.
yeah, so it's kind of like the Steam key is the reserve currency, like the dollar. You got to buy if you want to buy oil, you have to do it in dollars. I mean, everything goes that you want to be on any of those things. Like imagine if all of a sudden they just say, well, you're just not going to be on Steam, but you had all these plans to be on Fanatical and Humble Bundle. Now all those plans go, I mean, everything goes down, right? I mean, it affects a lot.
Yeah. I certainly could see the potential here. Again, given Steam's large market share and the nature, I don't think anybody denies that Steam has a very dominant hold on the PC gaming market. I mean, that much is obvious. We have Epic Game Store out here trying to establish itself as a competitor. They're losing literally hundreds of millions of dollars every year on the Epic Game Store. It's not it's not only not turning a profit, they're losing hundreds of millions of dollars on it publicly. I mean, this is common knowledge. just to try to get a foothold. And we've seen it in our own community. There are people out there who they could give away any game for free. They will not engage with Epic Games. And that's another discussion for another day. A lot of people say they hate Epic Games. I don't know why. Maybe there's legitimate reasons I'm just not privy to. But I love it. My Epic Games library is full, and I've only bought like 2 or 3 of them. So I love free stuff, and Epic is at the forefront of today's free stuff market.
Yeah, and it also creates competition. You know what I mean? Like Steam has had no competition for so long. So even if you're not 100% an Epic fan, store fan, just it being out there is good for you as a Steam user, right? It's going to drive prices down to have competition. So
Lipnox VR in chat says Epic spends the money on free games instead of new features. I'd be interested to know what kind of new features would. I mean, that's interesting. What kind of new features do we think would draw people into the Epic Store? These people that haven't already jumped over. But again, that's another topic for another day. Back to the matter at hand. The second major thing that this antitrust lawsuit against Valve is trying to establish. And this is probably the meat and potatoes of it, because this second thing actually has 3 different parts. This second part is basically the whole gist of the lawsuit. All right. So 2, Valve engages in a scheme to maintain its dominance in the PC game distribution market through multiple tactics, including A, contract provisions and rules imposed on developers, B, the Steam key authorization system, and C, Steam store reviews, the game recommendation algorithm, and other enforcement mechanisms. So they're alleging here that Steam has a multi-pronged approach to stifle competition, to basically control the activities of developers who are already beholden unto Steam, just to even try to make it in today's PC market. That they're basically saying that the system that Steam has built up is built to kill competition and basically put developers in a box. That's the claim here. Allegedly. Allegedly. Can't say it enough. Allegedly. All right. So first of all, Valve requires that developers offer the best price for their game and DLC on Steam. Developers may not offer their game or DLC at better prices on other storefronts. Since developers cannot offer their games for lower prices on other storefronts that are willing to charge lower revenue shares, the market lacks a mechanism to force Valve to whittle down the revenue sharing percentages that it imposes on developers distributing their games on Steam. A developer is required to reduce prices on Steam if it wants to reduce prices on any portion of its customers. With Valve's high revenue share, again, 30%, the developer has an incentive not to reduce his prices to anyone, even temporarily. To do so, the developer must be able to make enough sales on the other storefront to offset the lost revenue from sales on Steam at the new lower price. Even though other storefronts offer developers a more favorable revenue share, they cannot encourage consumers to switch storefronts through lower pricing. The actual or potential effect is higher prices for consumers, lower revenues for developers, and reduced flexibility in pricing and promoting games. All right, so this first thing they're saying here is that they are bound by the Steam agreement to, if they're going to have their game on Steam, Steam must always have the lowest price. So you can't go anywhere else and reduce your price. If you do so, you also have to reduce it on Steam. And due to their large cut that they're taking, 20, 25, 30%, you'll basically be losing money, because people are obviously, if it's the cheapest price is also on Steam, people are just going to pick it up on Steam, right? That's where everybody's at. So to cut prices, actually, they're claiming to cut prices actually has the opposite effect. And it causes them to lose money because it just ends up pushing more customers into the Steam ecosystem.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like a nightmare already.
Right. Already, we're just getting started here, dude. All right, next thing. Valve also prohibits exclusives through the terms it imposes on its developers. Valve's restrictions remove exclusives from the market and therefore competition for exclusives, ensuring that Steam always has the latest game versions and the newest releases. Valve insists that it must receive a copy of the game updates and localized versions no later than when they were made available to any other third party for commercial release. In a competitive market permitting exclusives, Valve would have to compete with other storefronts on price, revenue sharing rates, promotional activity, and or other benefits for developers to win exclusives. For example, Epic Game Store solicits timed exclusives from developers with benefits, including a lower revenue share of 12%. They also offer minimum revenue guarantees and upfront payments. These deals also benefit consumers because developers can sell the game at a lower price due to the lower revenue share or improve the quality of the game using the guaranteed funding and greater financial security. By prohibiting exclusives on other storefronts, Valve has exercised undue control in the marketplace and deprived developers of higher sales and more favorable revenue share agreements that they would otherwise could have received through a promotional exclusive on another store. So again, this is another way that they are alleging that Valve, through their agreements, force developers into their box, for lack of a better term, because developers aren't allowed to go elsewhere and offer exclusive offerings if they want to be on the Steam store. And again, the very first thing we established, which is kind of the underpin for the whole thing, is that PC game developers must be on Steam to succeed. So again, if we accept that, then not allowing developers to offer promotions on other sites, not allowing developers to allow exclusives on other storefronts. These are all allegedly means by which Valve stifles competition.
Well, I would imagine that there's other push. There's got to be other ways that they come back at them as well if they try to go outside that ecosphere, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, and this is my speculation here. This is just me. I would imagine that they would just immediately be found in breach and released from the Steam store, right? Like if you go outside your agreement and do things on another store and don't reciprocate on Steam, I would imagine, allegedly, that they would just cut the at minimum, let me say that at minimum, they would just delete the account on Steam. Now, obviously, there are other things they could do, and I don't want to get into that whole can of worms. They could put the Valve Defense Force out after them on social media, which can be a whole different can of worms, as some other game developers have experienced in the past.
Yeah.
Anyway, onward we go. Valve uses Steam keys to control access to games available on Steam, including developers' attempts to sell their games on other storefronts. Now, this section here specifically had some eye-opening stuff for me. All right, so again, we established earlier that if you want to sell your games on most other popular storefronts, what you're doing essentially is selling Steam keys. Steam allows this. These are authorized sellers. If you sell your Steam keys on other storefronts, you are not subject to Valve's allegedly inflated revenue sharing percentages. But again, Valve uses the Steam keys to control access to games available on Steam, including developers' attempts to sell their games on other storefronts. Steam keys also allow it to control the quantity of Steam hosted games sold on third party stores and implement an output restraint to gain and protect its monopoly. Maintenance of Steam keys as the industry standard helps build and maintain Valve's monopoly in PC game distribution by allowing Valve to collect data on, among other information, developers' sales on other stores and keeping developers reliant on access to Steam keys with access determined at Valve's discretion to participate in the broader PC gaming ecosystem. A developer must request and obtain Steam keys from Valve to sell their games on third-party stores like Green Man Gaming and Humble Bundle, which are authorized retailers of Steam keys. All right, so listen to this. Prior to August of 2017, Valve allowed developers to generate keys for their games without Valve's oversight. Valve now grants developers access to Steam keys at Valve's own discretion without defined guidelines. Valve's denial of Steam key requests for amounts of keys it deems too large prevents developers from selling more copies of their games on third-party stores than they sell on Steam. This control, which has minimal or no pro-competitive reason, cements Steam's market dominance by allowing Valve to cap a developer's sales of the developer's own game on other stores. By limiting inventory of game copies available on third-party stores, Valve ensures Steam remains the dominant PC game distributor and ensures that Valve extracts its super competitive revenue share, again, 30%, from most sales of PC games. So basically what we learned here, Ruuts, and this was a bit of an eye-opener for me, is you're allowed to sell your Steam game, your Steam hosted game on other storefronts at a better rate. And prior to 2017, developers could do so without restriction. They could go wherever they wanted and sell as much of their game as they wanted. This is no longer the case, allegedly, according to this this document. In order to get keys to sell now, developers must go to Valve and ask for them. And it's at Valve's discretion whether or not they give them or how many they give them. And there are no clear guidelines as to follow as to what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, what's allowed and what's not allowed. Basically, Valve allegedly is the judge, jury, and executioner with regards to distribution of Steam keys. This I did not know, Ruuts, and I found this rather surprising.
So what you're saying is, in one aspect, on one hand, they're saying, dude, I know 30% is a lot. If you don't like it, you can go sell it on these side stores, man. You don't even have to pay us any percentage. And then you're like, okay, well, we'll do that. And then you put your hand out for the key and they slap your hand down or they throw you 3 or 4 copies or something. They decide how much of you can sell outside their store, right? That's not, I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, it's weird, right? It's weird because, again, the whole argument is again built on the idea that you have to have your game on Steam to succeed. Without that, the whole thing falls apart. But again, everything that we're talking about here moving forward is built upon that premise. And if that's true, if you do have to have your game on Steam to succeed, and again, I'm not passing judgment here one way or another. I'm just reporting what's in the document and what's going to go before the court. Then yeah, this certainly would seem to be anti-competitive behavior.
Yeah. I'm also was one thing that was kind of stuck out in there. Just recently there's been a lot of ruckus about Facebook and data being collected. And a lot of the people that I remember in our community saying, well, Valve doesn't do that. But this, allegedly, they do gather. I mean, well, of course, they're big business. They're gathering all of our data, right? But there's actually people out there that believe that no, not Gaben. He puts his cape on and flies away. But
Well, again, I'm not trying to pass judgment either way. We're just reporting it here. Lipnox VR in chat. I think Steam has tons of great features and works great. If I compare them to the console competitors, they are exactly the same. If Sony can charge 30%, then why is Steam the only bad guy? Well, I mean, no one's saying that Steam is the only bad guy, and Sony certainly is not the knight in white armor here. There's plenty to criticize when it comes to Sony, but console gaming is not the topic of the day here. PC gaming is, and the reason why is because there is a lawsuit being filed against Steam. We move onward. As the industry standard, PC game distributors and publishers require Steam keys to evaluate a game for possible funding, marketing support, or distribution. And industry media require developers to provide Steam keys to trial games. These entities will only accept Steam keys rather than, for example, an exe file to protect themselves from alleged violations of non-disclosure agreements or intellectual property protection. So they're saying, in addition to Valve's control of Steam keys going to third-party sellers, that they also control a developer's access to these keys, which they need for other things, such as marketing support, possible funding, distributing to media, and so on and so forth. Other things that these keys are needed for. And I think that this is basically just them trying to support their first assertion that they have to have their game on Steam in order to do all of these other things.
yeah, it definitely makes it difficult, especially if you're like us, where we're in a position where we go to a dev and we're like asking for a key and they can't give us one, and we're like, how could they not give us a key? This opens my eyes. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes than just the developer saying, I want to give you this key, but I can't. So
Right. So I mean, sometimes we ask for keys and we don't get them. Sometimes we ask for two and we only get one. And this kind of sheds a little light on maybe it's not quite so easy as we thought, right?
yeah, there's always more going on behind the scenes. So
Onward we go. Valve uses its sole ability to generate Steam keys to keep developers loyal to it and punish behavior seen as contrary to its position as gatekeeper to the PC gaming ecosystem, including countering or speaking out against its anti-competitive scheme. For example, Valve views exclusive offerings and temporary sales on other stores as a threat to its monopoly in PC game distribution. When developers enter into exclusives with other stores or other publishers, Valve may delay approval or cut off developers' access to Steam keys to cripple their sales and their ability to run further promotions. It may also remove them from the Steam storefront altogether. Valve substantially delayed granting Dark Cat's request for Steam keys it planned to sell on Humble Bundle. So they're giving a specific example here with regard to the plaintiff. And I remember this, Ruuts, and you may remember it as well. When we reviewed their game, Jenny and Thaco Trial by Spire, we gave it largely a mostly positive review. The one catching point with us was the launch price. Remember, it launched at like $30 or something like that. And we said, that might be a little steep for what we've got here. It's a good game, but you might want to wait on a sale. And then we came back, I think like a week or two later, and reported that that wasn't supposed to be the price, right? That wasn't supposed to be the price. It was a mistake. Do you remember this?
I do remember.
It was a mistake. And it was actually supposed to launch at a lower price. And they had some difficulty getting it changed on the Steam storefront. So I know during this time period, one of the things that they planned on doing was selling through a third party, namely Humble Bundle. And apparently, allegedly, when they requested keys to do so, Valve substantially delayed in granting that request. So
Lipnox,
again, allegedly.
Lipnox VR says, does Steam say anything in regards to this, or is this speculation that they are delaying. This is just literally filed. Was it yesterday or the day before?
It was, yeah. This hasn't even been viewed
Oh,
by the courts yet. I will say one thing here. There's a lot more than what's in this complaint letter that will come out if this does get seen before the court. There's a lot that can't be said right now, but there is more here. I'll just say that and leave it at that. There's more that we can't disclose due to the sensitive nature and the impending potential lawsuit.
yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna have to
So,
wait, Lip Knox. We have to wait until this all goes down the road a little bit further before we find out more.
yeah. There is more. There's lots more. But anyway, back to it. Dark Cat has had multiple requests for Steam keys from interested publishers wanting to trial its game that it cannot fulfill because Valve, without reasonable explanation, cut off its access and will not authorize Steam keys. Again, word for word from the legal document, not my words, their words.
Yeah.
All right. All right, on to the next bullet point. Dark Cat and other developers have been victimized by Valve through its control of Steam keys for taking action Valve perceived as against its interest. Again, I'll read that because I stumbled over it. Dark Cat and other developers have been victimized by Valve through its control of Steam keys for taking action Valve perceived as against its interest. And it gives a few examples here we're going to talk about of publicly available disputes that were in the news in recent years. And again, I know that some of the community members are going to be more well versed in what happened here and already have their own opinions on this stuff. This is the first I've read of any of this, okay? And I'm not trying to pass judgment on any of this. Again, merely giving the examples that were given in the document. So first of all, developer WiseNet raised funds for Shenmue 3, the third installment in its popular series via Kickstarter. WiseNet anticipated being able to provide a Steam key at release to backers who wanted a PC version of the game. On or about June 11, 2019, WiseNet and its publisher Deep Silver announced that the game would be a timed exclusive on the Epic Games Store, and therefore not available on Steam until after the year-long exclusivity period. Because of this exclusivity, Valve would not authorize Steam keys for WiseNet to provide to its backers, as anticipated. Gamers also review bombed Steam-hosted predecessors, Shenmue 1 and 2, in retaliation for the Epic Games Store exclusive. And again, this is just, I think this specific example not only is being given here to try to provide evidence for Valve manipulating things by its restrictions on Steam key distribution, but also the thing we talked about before about Steam not allowing exclusives through competitors. So
Yeah.
I think this kind of is being given here as an example of both.
Yeah. I missed Shenmue 3, by the way. I didn't play it. I never played it.
Probably because it wasn't on Steam.
That's right.
Right. Anyway, Studio Wildcard offered its game Ark Survival Evolve, originally released in 2017, as a free giveaway for 1 week in June 2020 on the Epic Games Store, and participated in Humble Bundle's end of summer sale in 2020. It was temporarily unable to fulfill the orders it received on Humble Bundle because Valve delayed approving additional Steam keys in retaliation for the promotions on other sites. Ark was promptly removed from the Humble Bundle store because of the supply shortage. So again, this is just another example that they're giving, both of what we talked about earlier about Valve using Steam keys to control and punish developers for offering promotions on rival sites.
Lipnox VR says that was 100% shady by YS promising Steam keys and then not honoring it. But that's the whole point of what's being alleged in this thing is they weren't allowed to. They weren't given the keys. They were promised. Imagine if you had somebody promising you above you and that you're promoting something and they say we're going to give you 1,000 keys and you tell everybody we're going to give 1,000 keys, and then the day you're supposed to do it they say nah, we're not giving them to you. What do you do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have to not honoring it, and then it makes you look bad and Steam steps back and they're, you know, it just
Right.
it's weird.
Yeah. I can give a kind of a similar example, obviously on a much smaller scale here, but it reminds me of our Grad giveaway. When Grad approached us and said, "Did you guys want to do a giveaway?" We said, "Sure." They gave us a bunch of keys. That they've always been awesome to us, Game Dust. We wait till we feel the time is right. We wait about a month before we do the giveaway. We do the giveaway, and we give a key away on game one, on day one rather, and come to find out the key don't work. And so we replace it and that key don't work. And come to find out none of the keys work. So here I am, doing a giveaway with no keys. Of course, Game Dust, when I contacted them about them, were very apologetic and corrected it, and everyone got the keys that won. But I can only imagine how it must feel to sell, Kickstarter keys through your Kickstarter, and then not be able to fulfill it because, again, Steam not willing to give up the keys due to, well, allegedly the reason why was in retaliation for the Epic exclusive. Again, that's from the lawsuit. That's not my opinion.
Yeah.
Lipnox said they had the game on the Steam store and then changed it last minute. So what Lipnox is saying here is during the Kickstarter phase, they had a Steam store, a page on the Steam store, right? This game coming to Steam. They then, after selling the Kickstarter, they then came to the agreement with Epic Game Store for the timed exclusive. And I emphasize timed here because that's the important thing here from the other perspective. So what Lipnox, I think, is trying to say is they had no right to go into a timed exclusive, having promised these keys to their Kickstarter backers. And I think the opposite point of view would be that since it was only a timed exclusive, that they still would have been able to fulfill their obligation. It just would have came later after the time exclusive had passed. But Steam, again, didn't allow it. And whether or not gamers should be mad at them over that, it isn't really the issue here. The issue is whether Steam should have honored the key request, and I mean, it's debatable, and I'm not here to debate it. I'm just the messenger.
It's only been 4 years that this whole thing's been going on anyway, right? 4 years ago, this conversation isn't even happening. You had as many keys to give away as you needed or whatever. I wonder what changed in 2017.
I don't know. Now that is a good question, and I'm sure something did change. But we'll have to dive into that another day. We are running out of time here, so we need to pick it up here and get through the rest of this stuff. I just lost my place though. I got to find it. All right. All right. So here we are. We just talked about Ark Survival Revolved. Okay. In addition to using Steam keys to control and punish developers, Valve encourages and/or allows its users to improperly attack developers using Steam reviews and community discussions, and it does not timely remove such inappropriate reviews, if at all. So basically, what this whole section here is about is the power of the review bomb, and we recently saw the power of the review bomb with Blaston. And when they decided that they were going to go into that ad test with Oculus, people went on Steam and review bombed them. And according to these allegations in these situations where the reviews actually have nothing to do with the actual game and are rather industry politics. Steam is either not removing them in a timely fashion or not removing them at all.
What's their
All right.
policy on that? I wonder if they're like supposed to, or if generally they normally would. Because if it was like a game that was nothing related, they probably take fake stuff down, right? And why couldn't they take those bombs down if they could to affect? Because it affects everything. It affects the sales, right?
Yeah, it's actually a more complex system than you even realize. And this is one of the main things we got into yesterday on the phone. I wish I had time to break this down. It's very complex how the Steam review system works. But again, we'll get into a little bit of it right now. Developers offer exclusives on other stores. If developers offer exclusives on other stores, Valve may use social media channels to notify its followers of the developer's action, resulting in an attack on the developer on social media or by review bombing this on the Steam store. For example, 4A Games and Deep Silver faced review bombing for entering a temporary exclusive with Epic Game Store for the new release Metro Exodus. Metro Exodus had been available for pre-sale on Steam before announcing on or about January 28, 2019, a one-year exclusive deal with Epic Game Store. Valve issued a statement criticizing the exclusive, calling the decision unfair to Steam customers, and, get this, posted the statement on Metro Exodus's Steam store page. This led to a bunch of negative reviews spanning on the previous Metro games, Metro 23 to 33 Redux and Metro Last Light Redux on Steam. The hefty review bombing featured reviews mentioning the Epic Game Store rather than the negative comments on the games themselves. Another example, on or about April 3rd, 2019, game studio Gearbox announced its highly anticipated new game Borderlands 3 would be an Epic Game Store exclusive, a decision made by publisher 2K, Take-Two, and not even made by Gearbox. The launch date was September 13th, 2019, and the game would be available on other digital storefronts in April 2020. Thousands of fans immediately went on Steam to review bomb the currently available Gearbox games, including Borderlands 2, in protest, specifically mentioning Epic Games. Valve refused to remove the false reviews. Allegedly. Allegedly. All right. So basically, what they're saying here is that the publisher of Borderlands 3 decided to enter into an exclusive with Epic Game Store. Again, another timed exclusive. And in retaliation for this, Gearbox, who was not responsible for this at all, had their other two games, Borderlands 1 and 2, review bombed on Steam with tons of reviews specifically citing the Epic Game Store rather than the game itself. According to this document, Valve refused to remove those false reviews. And you said it a minute ago, the Steam review system is imperative. It's extremely important in the marketing of PC games.
Yeah. It's just crazy that it could get to that point, I guess. I don't know what I was gonna say.
Review bombing can cause a game's Steam score or average user rating to plummet. And it's in this little section here where I learned something else that I did not know that just kind of blew my mind. For example, Metro 2033 dropped from a 89% positive review to 46%. And Metro Last Light dropped from 90% positive to 43, less than half. Consequently, the game will not be featured on the Steam Store homepage, which includes recommendations from friends, curators, and the Steam community, plus trending and popular categories, or included in specific recommendations and discovery queues to customers, as those algorithms rely on Steam scores. Although a game may be purchased through numerous authorized outlets, only reviews from users who purchase the game on Steam contribute to the Steam score that is used in the Game Store algorithms. That is, reviews from users who care less about the store from which they purchase and therefore less likely to be outraged by an exclusivity deal but have legitimately purchased a Steam hosted game and played the game on Steam using a valid account and Steam key do not count for purposes of Steam score algorithms. So, breaking this down, simplifying it, what this is saying is the Steam score algorithm, the score that determines positive, very positive, average, negative. This determines uh, the game store placement through their algorithms. This score probably the most important thing in the whole Steam review system with regards to these games. Interestingly, the only reviews that count toward this score, allegedly, are games that were purchased on Steam. So if you purchase your game through Green Man or Humble or Fanatical, and again, legitimate authorized third party Steam sellers, your review doesn't count toward that Steam score. Us as game reviewers given promotional keys by the game developer, legitimate Steam keys, only playing the game on Steam, our reviews do not count toward that Steam score. And again, this is a very important part of marketing your game, not only on Steam, but also in the third party stores, because they all just, parrot the Steam scores.
So why give a review ever anymore? If I get a
Right.
key, what's the point? I'm gonna look at that review like I'm not wasting my time. That's just bizarre. You know.
Yeah, that kind of blew my mind. I would expect that any legitimately purchased owner of a Steam game would have um, equal say with regards to the Steam store, the Steam score and review system. But according to this lawsuit, that is not the case. And according to this lawsuit, the reason for that, now this is debatable. The reason for that is because people who are buying their their games on third party stores rather than directly from Steam are less likely to care about exclusivity deals, right? So basically the Steam fanboy, for lack of a better term, their opinion is weighted more greatly than the person who's platform agnostic.
Yeah, especially if they're going out and ruining people's scores. People could think, "Oh, that's not that big a deal." I mean, it's huge for the developer. It's screwing the sales up. It's screwing you and me. I mean, how many games have you missed, or I missed, or whatever, because the ratings were so low, I didn't even bother looking at it. I'm not going to look at a poor rating. I'm not going to go scouring through all the things, but I like to go through and look at the reviews and see what people are saying. If it's mostly positive, or if it's
It,
good, I'll look at
it,
actual specific comments. I might not even do that.
it has to be at least mixed, right? Like
Yeah.
like I won't look at one that's like mostly negative unless it's a game that I'm specifically going in, interested in. But if I'm just looking, browsing, if a game isn't at least mixed, I don't even really look at it at all and read what people said about it.
Yeah, so it's definitely if this is, and again we've said this 1,000 times, allegedly, from what these documents say, what the court document says, this is what is being accused, or the accusations, right?
Right.
So it's not the first, and that was what somebody was saying in the chat earlier. They were saying that they could have sworn, I think the Shenmue game was a lawsuit over it, and like you were saying, that there was lots of lawsuits. There's been several lawsuits, and I'm sure some of them never made it very far because Valve squashed it. Maybe a payout, and maybe that's what'll happen this time. But like you said, the whole point of this is to fix it, so that these
Right.
developers aren't getting screwed anymore. No matter whether people like Valve or not, or Oculus or any group, we want the developers to succeed. And
Right.
if this is true, what's being alleged, it's going to be very difficult to succeed in this business, for sure.
Right. And that's the class action nature of this lawsuit. When I was talking to the plaintiff last night on the phone, one of the things I specifically inquired about was his motive. What is he trying to get out of all this? What's his motivation? And basically, he said that, I mean, he's not really doing it for himself. He doesn't stand much to gain here. A few $100, isn't going to make any real big difference to him. But uh, in his in his opinion, his experience was very unfair, and basically he's already lost everything, and he doesn't have anything else to lose. And he says the reason why he's doing this is for future developers, for other people that are going to come after him. Perhaps he wouldn't have had to have this ordeal if someone before him had successfully challenged what he perceives to be an unfair marketplace. And since he doesn't have anything left to lose, this is what he says again. Um, he's doing it for the next generation, the people who follow him, so that no one else has to hopefully ever deal with what he considers to be unfair business practice.
Absolutely. And a lot of those games that you listed that we just went through, and I can already hear it in people's minds saying that, well, they put it out on the Steam or they put it out in the Kickstarter. They clearly they breached something with in the contract, and Valve would have came after them if if there was something weird done. They just made a decision that, like a lot of companies do. You know what? I'm going to do an exclusive with a different company for a year or 6 months, and allegedly Steam didn't like it, and so.
Quickly, real in the chat, Mepper, I look at Steam reviews before I buy Steam keys from other sites, specifically because Steam is the one place that has a lot of reviews. Yeah, and I actually said this to him yesterday, that most people just, no matter where you're buying your game, you always have Steam running on your background. So, I just go to Steam and look at the reviews anyway, no matter where I'm buying the game at, because it's easy to browse. You have that really quick positive negative thing you can glance by and move on. And apparently Mepper, and I would imagine most people do the same thing.
Apparently we can't trust that anymore, Wes. We can't go by the positive negative anymore. We gotta deep dive now.
Right. Lipnox VR in chat, Steam seems to like a complicated platform full of features. Hold on, my phone's telling me to end the episode.
It doesn't know you have 10 minutes left.
I have 10 minutes to get in my car and be out the door. Steam seems like a complicated platform packed full of features and moving parts that all seems to work. I want the platforms to succeed too. If PlayStation takes a huge loss on the console and then gets it back through the 30%, and that's how the market works, then that's just how it works. All right. So really quickly, we're going to move on to the third prong of this allegation. I'm just going to read through it very quickly, and then we're going to have to sign off. But fortunately, there's not a whole lot in this third part here. All right, so part 3, Valve reaps rewards from its monopoly at the developer's expense. The majority of developers selling to consumers on Steam are subject to the 30% commission rate. Smaller developers, most in need of access to the Steam store to monetize their games, are charged the highest commission rate. Other storefronts offer more developer-friendly revenue share agreements. Discord offered a 90-10 revenue split. Discord Store is now out of business. Indie Game Store offered an 80-20 split with the option for a developer to reduce its share to 70 and then give the remaining 10% to a charity. Indie Game Store is now out of business. Epic Game Store offers an 88-12 revenue split. Humble Bundle offers a 75-25 split for games sold on the Humble Store, and get this, a 95-5 revenue split for sales through the Humble widget. So
wow.
Note to self, buying games through the Humble Bundle widget, 95% of proceeds will go to developers. Just wow. a note for future shopping habits.
Yeah, we need to start buying all our games that way.
Microsoft recently announced that it would lower its revenue share for PC games on the Microsoft Store to an 88-12 split, matching the Epic Games Store. Giving the Steam developer agreement and DLC restrictions and Steam key rules, developers must offer the best price for their games on Steam. They cannot use more advantageous revenue share agreements to offer a lower price on competing stores to try to boost sales. In a competitive market, developers may choose to offer lower prices to consumers on competing stores, but they could still earn money from a greater number of transactions at the lower retail prices given on the other store's lower revenue share. Valve's revenue share percentages would be forced down by competitive market pressure. For example, assuming a developer could sell its game for $30 on Steam and $25 on the Microsoft Store, the revenue split would be $21 to the developer, $9 to Steam, versus $22 to the developer and $3 to Microsoft, earning more money for the developer and costing the consumer $5 less. This would likely lead to increased sales and revenues on the site offering the cheaper price, and the developer would earn more revenue on each sale and more total revenue from higher sales. So basically what they're alleging here was something that they really touched on in the beginning, was this price parity that Steam demands basically cripples their competition. That if they could offer sales on the other sites and not match it on Steam, then not only would developers make a higher share of the money, they could sell the game for less and make more money. Meaning that not only do developers make more money, but consumers save money as well, which would in turn force Steam to lower their profit share percentages as well. So that's basically the gist of it in a nutshell. Again, there's a lot more to it, but as I see it, those are the main points. I'd be interested to know what you all think. Please let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. If you like the episode, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and be sure to hit that bell to stay up with all of our content. Obviously, we're offering a wide variety of frequent content these days, and good times. You don't want to miss out on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, for those of you who would like to do a little something more to support the channel, you can do so on Patreon. Only $3 per month will give you access to our weekly show notes, occasional insider updates, including these notes. Everything I just read to you was available to the patrons yesterday. They knew all about the ins and outs a day ahead of everyone else. So again, the insider update's really cool. Also, occasional content gets released through the Patreon, including occasional, very rare money shows these days. But again, it's only $3 per month, and it goes to help us to grow. And we really appreciate all of those who support us on Patreon.
Absolutely. $3 is cheaper than Game Pass, and that's what Lethal VR uses, Game Pass. If you use Game Pass, you might as well get our Patreon. It's more satisfying.
Right, absolutely. And lastly, the conversation does not have to end here, friend. Let's keep talking about it. I want to know what you think. Do these claims have any validity? Again, you can comment down below, or in the description down below, you'll find an invitation to our Discord. The conversation is nonstop, all day, every day there. And it's not all gaming related. We talk about everything in life, as well as, we get together and play games pretty much on a daily basis. There's people in there looking for multiplayer players. So the Virtual Strangers Discord, it is home for the hardcore VR gaming enthusiasts, and we invite you into our home to make it your home. Come home.
Yeah, come home.
Anyway, with that said, friends, we'd like to thank you all once again for watching. And for Ruuts, I'm Wes. We'll see you Sunday, friends. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.